awesome patrons, and welcome to your video rewards for July. I've had a lot of fun putting this video together for you because not only did I make a couple of paintings, but I also filmed a color chart process for you. And the color chart or the color combination is used for both paintings. And you will see this process at the end, so I hope you'll stick around for that because it was really fun. I don't think I've ever recorded myself painting on 140 pound hot press paper because it has not been my favorite type of watercolor paper in the past, but I have to say that it worked really well for this painting. And this is my second painting. The first one was more of a series of branches on a bigger piece, which I will show you also at the end. And although it was fun to paint, I thought I could go for a more minimalistic approach. And I love the result. So basically, I'm using this number 2 round paintbrush from Silver Black Velvet. And the colors I'm using are kind of like all mixed in my palette. And what I do now is I extract those half pans from my 5 full palettes, and I put them in the lid of one of the palettes, and I do my mixing inside that palette. I found lately that it has been working very well for me because having those 5 palettes all open on my desk, and then having a separate ceramic dish sometimes can be a little bit cumbersome. So that's what I started doing, and I like it. I have used this small-ish, it's not small-ish, it is small brush for the entire painting. I wanted to experiment with that, and basically the whole feel of this painting is not to have accurate leaves and branches. I wanted it to remain a little bit loose. As you can tell, they're not well defined. They have also a lot of variations in the intensity of the color. There's also harsh lines, but that is exactly the look that I was going for. And it was quite liberating for me, as opposed to trying to stay within, something that was so accurate and also trying to make the leaves as flat as possible. I just wanted to give it that vibe, and that brush really worked well for me. It holds a lot of paint, so these brushes are quite good for that. As I've explained, I have done a bigger piece with these 4 different types of branches, but it was a full 9.5 by 12, and it had, what was it? I think 12 rectangles in which I have added branches. And after I had done the piece, I'm like, oh, it's nice, but for me, it was sort of busy. So I wanted to, like I said, go for a more minimalistic design-ish approach. And I really liked the way it turned out. And basically, the 4 types of branches that are on this piece are the same as what I did for the bigger piece, but I did like 4 of the 4. No, 3. Was it? Oh no, I have 16. I have 16 branches on the bigger piece. Anyways, I'm ahead of myself. You'll see that at the end. So what I did for the colors and how I chose them, I tried to choose my most favorite colors from the color charts that I have put together. And that was kind of like the only big decision I had to make. Really, because the rest, especially this branch that I'm doing right now, this is so much fun. I am using a lot of the side of the brush as opposed to the tip, just to create that organic look, and I just love it. It's so much fun to do. It's very random. You never know what you're gonna get, and like I said, this is the vibe that I was going for. So this color in particular is probably the highest pigmentation color I've ever seen, because I had trouble creating the different values with this color. It is so pigmented. It's Sap Green by Renaissance, And no matter how much water I added to the mix, it was always quite dark. So it might even look as if it's black to you, but it's a very dark green. And I'm just now putting together the last of the 4. You'll also notice that I have lead pencil lines because I wanted to come up with the perfect placement for these 4 branches. And I liked the look so much that I left them. I erased a little bit on the sides because the lines went all the way across the entire page, but I thought it'd be fun to leave them in, and you'll see at the end from the photo that it totally works, I think. Anyways, it gives it that architectural vibe, which I like. I also experimented with dropping in some darker colors inside the leaves, and I will be also adding some elements with a color I created, kind of like a blush color I created with 2 tones of pinks. Actually, one is a flesh tone and the other one is shell pink. I mentioned that I used the side of the brush to create the leaves, but actually the branches were created with the very tip of the brush, which comes to a very sharp point. But going over those lines that are already traced to darken them up had proven to be a little bit challenging because I wanted the lines to be super fine. So obviously you kind of have to have a steady hand. And also I was trying to just move my entire forearm as opposed to moving the hand because that makes it a little bit more wobbly. I also dropped in on this type of leaves burgundy yellow ochre, and I absolutely love the effect. It reminds me a little bit of monoprinting, no. Oh shoot, I forget what it's called, but it's a specific look when you're putting 2 transparent colors one on top of the other. I just love it. And here I am dropping that blush color just to add, you know, some fun elements to the whole piece so that it's not entirely flat. This one I just dropped in a few dots. It's not really relatable to the leaves. They're just strictly there for decorations. It's not adding to the actual branches. And there's the piece. I love it. At the end, I'm going to show you how it looks when it's framed, because what I had in mind with this one is to have a large white area all around the painting and then framing it, not with a small frame adjusted to the actual image, but larger. So it was quite interesting. It's probably the first time that I'm doing this sort of painting, and I really, really like it. Here's the other painting I was talking about, and it does have 16 rectangles. Unfortunately, my camera is so close to my workstation that I can't show you the full thing in one screenshot, but I've included a photo at the end. Okay, so this is the most exciting part for me. I'm not exaggerating when I'm saying this. For me, obviously, every painting starts with color, and I get this question a lot. Do you choose your colors before you start a piece, or do you just start with one and make color decisions along the way? And I want to say that 90% of the time I choose my color combination beforehand. That kind of eliminates the guesswork, and it also eliminates the risk of adding a color that doesn't really go well with what you've already laid down, and then you just crapped your piece because you can't really completely remove a watercolor paint once it's on paper, unless you start with a very light color and then you can correct with a darker color. So the best way to know your paints is to play with them. And here I'm giving you a close-up of how I actually dilute a paint to create different values of one color. I make sure that I clean my brush really well. I always have 2 jars of water. I have one for dirty water and one for clean. And once I'm done rinsing my brush in the clean water, I don't remove completely the excess water. It's kind of like I rub on the side of the glass jar very lightly, and that adds a little bit more water to the mix. And gradually I'm able to create this beautiful value chart of one color. And this color was all actually mixed with two colors. It was the Flesh Tint by Renaissance and the Shell Pink by Holbein, because I wanted a blush color. And so the way I do my chart is it was actually inspired by Anna Victoria Calderon. I don't know if you know her. She has quite a few classes on Skillshare, and I was watching one of her recent classes. I think it's on color theory, and it inspired me to do something like this. Mine is a little bit different than hers. Hers is more linear. The way I like to do, and I'm not even sure that she does rectangles, maybe she does, but regardless, you can pretty much do any shapes that you want. But the way I organize my color chart is I always have, like, I kind of cluster each of the main colors, and I move my paper around just so that all the colors are in a different orientation. I guess the way I do this is so that it's aesthetically pleasing to my taste, because although I love linear things, I think for me it's a little bit more fun to look at a color chart if the boxes are going in different directions. And also it's also the way I read a chart, and you can find your own way of doing things like this, and it's only by experimentation that you will learn that. So as I've mentioned, this color was a combination of two, so I make sure that I identify these two colors underneath. And the circles on my chart are always the true value, or the mass stone, which is at its highest pigmentation of the color, so that I have a record. And I will also write down the name and the brand underneath. And then I will turn my paper around and do the same thing for the other colors. Now, in this case, I only have 3 colors. I have done charts with 4 colors as well, and that's the highest that I went. I have sped up the rest of this charting, or color swatching, I guess, because it's basically the same. I have also experimented with mixing colors together, like these 3 colors with each other. I've also experimenting mixing them with black and also with white, and that gives you, when you're mixing with black, you're creating a shade of a color, and then when you're mixing with white, it's a tint. And then if you can also swatch with gray, and that will give you the tone of a color. Incidentally, that is a topic I'll be discussing soon with you, as I was thinking of putting together a series that I would present to you on color theory and making it fun and interactive, because I know this topic can be a little bit too technical and boring for some, but I think it can also be fun. So let me know if you're interested in that sort of a series in the comments below. if you've been with me for a while, you know that I had been on the lookout for a specific type of pen, and I found it. It's the Uniball Deluxe Micro. It is, so my criteria were the following. The pen had to have like an extra fine tip. It had to be ballpoint or rollerball, whatever you want to call it, and not felt tip, because felt tips wear off too easily, too fast. And the ink had to be water resistant. I think I was not quite clear on that, but a lot of people were sending me suggestions, and I was really grateful because I got to order a whole bunch of different pens and try them out. I just wanted to mention something. When a manufacturer says that the ink is water resistant, fade proof, and permanent, it does not mean that they are waterproof. There's a big difference. Fade resistant, permanent, or water resistant only means that if you splash water on them, they will bleed, but the ink will not completely disappear, so it is still legible. Waterproof means that it is completely impervious to water. So even if I spray water on this, whatever I wrote with this pen, it will not smudge one bit. So I have tried it. It has been proven, and it works really well. This pen is actually recommended for people that sign a lot of checks. It's anti-forgery or something like that. Anyway, so very happy. The only drawback is that sometimes it tends to skip on watercolor paper. I haven't tried it on regular paper, actually. I only swatched it on watercolor paper. But it's not too dramatic. And the tip, I believe, is a 0.38 millimeter. It's not as small as or as fine as the one that I have used in the past, the Muji Hexa Gel Pen, which was a 0.25 millimeter, but it still does the job, and I think I'm going to be using it for doodling, especially if I'm not sure if I'm going to be adding more watercolor after I'm finished doodling or drawing. So yay, and thank you to the person who sent me or has put me on the right path, because I was able to find it. So I'm very grateful for that. And here I'm finalizing my chart with some information. Like I mentioned, the name of the color, the brand, how they relate to each other, what have I mixed together, that sort of thing. And I have some lines that are going from one direction to another. I kind of like the look. I just do this for fun because, I don't know, it's just pleasing to me. And I also wrote down the reason why I did this particular combination. For instance, this was for the Patreon July 2019 painting. I have also started another painting that was supposed to be the artwork of the month, and it will still be, but it's not finalized. So that's one of the photos that I will be posting during the month of August. And if I may touch very quickly on what's going to happen during the month of August, although I will be doing a quick update via video. I am taking a little bit of a break because Lucy, my good friend Lucy from the UK, and also one of your fellow awesome patrons, is coming for a third visit. Yay! She's going to stay with me for a couple of weeks, and so I just kind of want to be with her, and I know we're going to do a lot of art. So I will be posting what I make, but I am taking a break from doing the videos. Which is why I kind of jam-packed this video with extra stuff, and like I said, I'm also going to be providing photos for all this artwork and the charts, and I'm also going to finish the painting that I mentioned and post that and give you a sketch and whatnot. So I'm packing it on for July. I know we're in August, but I have a bit of a lag. But the month of August for me will kind of be catching up on business stuff that I need to do and taking a bit of a break, I guess. So that's it for this video. I hope that you've enjoyed the color swatching, and like I said, if you are, let me know what you think about this new series that I want to do on color. And I kind of also want to put something together that's more like a watercolor 101 kind of thing on with different topics, like what types of brushes you can buy, or what they do, or what's a good beginner set, what are my favorite, or what's a good starter set, or what colors should I buy if I'm just starting out with watercolor, that sort of thing. So I'm thinking of offering this to you, my patrons, as kind of like a side thing. I'm not sure exactly how it's going to be presented, but yeah, anyways, let me know if that's of any interest to you. Thank you so much for watching. As usual, I do appreciate your support so much. Thank you for also allowing me to take a couple of weeks, a little bit of a vacation during the month of August. I appreciate that. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below, and I will see you soon, my awesome patrons.